Hello there, my fellow myth and fantasy nerds. My name is Tanner, and I'd like to welcome you back to my YouTube channel. Now, before we begin today's video, I would like to officially wish you all a happy spooky season. In celebration, starting this week, the videos on my channel for the rest of October will be me taking some well-known spooky stories and retelling them in my own unique way. Now for this week's video, I'll actually be doing a request that was asked of me by a family friend around this time last year. I saved it and saved it and saved it until this very occasion. So as always, make sure you leave a like on this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe down below. Please? It always helps! And, wait a minute. Why do I suddenly feel like I'm forgetting something? Let's see. Okay, set looks good. Camera's on and it's recording. Uh, oh, of course! We can't have a spooky story without proper lighting now, can we? Ah, much better, don't you think? And so, without further ado, I bring you the legend of Sleepy Hollow. We begin in the year 1790 in the small Dutch settlement that nowadays is known as Tarrytown, New York. Near Tarrytown, there is a small hidden valley, which the locals call Sleepy Hollow. The reason they call it such is because the valley is well known for the ghosts and spirits that dwell there, and the overall haunted feeling that both locals and visitors perceive. There are two theories of the origin of this spooky atmosphere. Some say the town was cursed early on in the Dutch settlement, while others believe an old Native American chief, who is also his tribe's medicine man, was the cause before the area was even discovered, let alone settled. Whatever the case may be, the residents of Sleepy Hollow were, and probably still are, exposed to various supernatural phenomena, including, but not limited to, trance-like visions, seeing strange apparitions, and hearing mysterious music and or voices coming from nowhere. However, the most infamous spirit, the one said to command all other specters in the area, is known as the Headless Horseman. According to local lore, the Horseman is the ghost of a former Hessian soldier whose cranium got on the wrong side of a rogue cannonball during the Revolutionary War, and who wanders about the old battlefield at night, looking to be reunited with his missing head. It is here, in the town of Sleepy Hollow, that we meet our main character, one Ichabod Crane. Tall, thin, and spindly, like a scarecrow with large ears and a long nose, Ichabod was originally from Connecticut. However, at the time of this story, he was living in Sleepy Hollow as the local schoolteacher. Throughout his time in the town, he was able to make himself a valued member of the community, both through his mild and pleasant nature and his willingness to help out with the odd non-teaching jobs around town. Occasionally, he would help out the farmers with things such as making hay, cutting firewood, fixing fences, and caring for the animals. He would also help the various mothers in town by essentially babysitting their youngsters. Ichabod was also quite beloved by the single women of the town, who were quite attracted by his talent, his intelligence, and seemingly his ability to be a human record for the local gossip. He was also a very superstitious man, a firm believer in things like witchcraft and the occult, and no one else in the town could match his craving for stories of the strange and the unbelievable. His thirst only increased during his stay in the small town, and his visits to the old Dutch wives to hear their tales of the haunted places, of the ghoulies and the ghosties and the long-leggedy beasties, was a source of both fear and thrill for him. He especially enjoyed their tales of the headless horseman, or the galloping Hessian of the Hollow, as the old wives sometimes called him. Another source of delight for Ichabod was Katrina van Tassel, the only child of Baltus van Tassel, a particularly wealthy farmer in the area. Ichabod was dead set on winning Katrina's hand in marriage. However, in this he had some stiff competition. Abraham Van Brunt, known to the locals as Brom Bones, was both the local hero and the local troublemaker. He also wanted the hand of Katrina, and, unable to drag Ichabod into a physical challenge to decide who would marry her, would play a series of tricks and pranks on the old schoolmaster. Ichabod was undeterred, however, as he knew that once he married Katrina, it would only be a matter of time before she, and by extension he, would inherit her father's sizable fortune. Our protagonist, everyone. However, soon, one fateful autumn night, the tension between Ichabod, Brom, and Katrina would soon reach the turning point. That night, Ichabod was invited to a harvest party over at the Van Tassel farm, where he danced and feasted and listened to the ghost stories told by the locals, all in an effort to propose to Katrina that very night, after the other guests left. However, he must have rolled a nat 1 on his persuasion check because those efforts would prove to be disastrous. Dejected, Ichabod rode home on his horse, which was named Gunpowder due to his irritable and unpredictable nature. As he was taking his usual route back home through the woods at night, he passed several of the spots that the locals said were haunted. As he passed these places, his imagination was running rampant. And when he passed a tulip tree that was struck by lightning, which the locals said was haunted by the spirit of John Andre, a British spy, Ichabod soon saw, near the road's intersection, a large, imposing figure, riding a black horse and wrapped in a cloak. The fact that the other rider was much larger than he and was completely silent unnerved Ichabod to no end, and he soon discovered, to his sheer horror, the rider's head was not on its shoulders where it should be, but instead was attached to his saddle. Ichabod remembered that the horsemen couldn't cross the covered bridge next to the old Dutch church's burial ground, so he goaded Gunpowder to run for their lives. The horsemen chased after him, and Ichabod was desperate to get to the bridge and cross it, because, according to the legend, the horsemen would always disappear in a flash of fire and the smell of brimstone before he could cross it. Ichabod and Gunpowder were soon able to cross the bridge, but when Ichabod looked back, he saw, in a sight that filled him with terror, the horseman rearing his horse up on its hind legs, and in one swift motion he hurled his severed head at him. Ichabod tried to dodge, but it was too late. The severed head struck him in his own head, and Ichabod tumbled from his horse and crash landed onto the dirt road. The very next morning, the body of Ichabod Crane was nowhere to be seen from where it had fallen, and the only traces of the school teacher was his hat, a trampled saddle, and most mysteriously, a smashed pumpkin. Of course, with Ichabod out of the way, Katrina wound up marrying Brom, and no one ever really knew what became of the old schoolmaster. That being said, there are many interpretations of the ending. Some folks say the horseman was really Brom in disguise, and he either got rid of Ichabod himself, or Ichabod survived the fall off of gunpowder, and he ran from Sleepy Hollow in a panic, never to be seen in the area again. However, the old Dutch wives still love to say that Ichabod was carried away by something supernatural, and many legends developed around the disappearance of one Ichabod Crane. Wow, it's really bright in here. Anyway, and there we have it. That was the Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Pretty appropriate for the start of spooky season, huh? If you liked this video and you want more, please consider leaving a like and subscribing down below so you don't miss any new content. Oh, also, if you have any other ideas you want to see in future videos, please leave your thoughts in the comments down below. Who knows? It might just happen. Alright, well, that's all the time I have for this video, so I'll see you all next week with some more spooky season content. See you guys then.